we will let our three ministerial representatives, as you can see here, give their impression, each of them. I promised you not to do presentations, so you can just speak out, and we can do it in the order as mentioned here. And please present yourself and your relation to coastal planning and coastal development issues. You are also all from national departments, but you are working with this in various manners. So please, Jane Kragh Andersen, the floor is yours, if you would like to begin.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Jane Kragh Andersen, and I'm a special consultant from the Danish Housing and Planning Authority. And I have worked with spatial planning and development in coastal areas for quite a few years right now. But thank you very much for inviting me today. It's been some very interesting presentations, which leads to a lot of inspiration and reflection, I think. I have especially noticed, and I do know we do not have much time, but I would like to say I have four elements I have especially like to draw to mention. And one thing is knowledge as a totally basic element here in regard to what are we talking about. And I especially like the mapping of the EU coastal zone areas. I think and the many very good examples of how we experience conflicts in coastal zone areas, the growth decline issue about the many interest about tourism, fishing, everything, renewable energy, and all these conflicts that we see all over Europe in the coastal areas, and also in Denmark. Even though we have a very long coastal line regarding to the total area, we still have conflicts and need to balance the different development and protection interest. This was item 1, I think, and then I have another item, and that was how do we work with these conflicts? How do we what can we do from a national perspective, from a local perspective, from a planning perspective? I've noted here awareness, engagement, collaboration, coherence, cooperation. I think that's participation also very, very important issues to regard in this context. And I have noted with great interest how much these items are adopted into research areas. And I think it's very, very inspiring to see. I also think I enjoyed hearing about the case with the different approach to coastal zone planning in Norway and Denmark. And I especially like the 3 cases from Wilson, from West Shore of Iceland, and from the north of Norway, to see illustrated how can we work with this in a more local or regional context. I like the idea that we have to tell new stories, have a new narrative about all this, to engage people, to get more. I especially noted also that someone said that, I think it was from Iceland, that a lot of people in local areas are not aware of what is going on, are not aware of the planning process, and are not engaged. And I think we need to think about how do we get to this process. That was number 3. And then number 4 is, having worked with spatial planning, I'm especially intrigued by this idea of making a new approach to spatial planning, getting a new process, getting a new approach, cross-fertilization with a wider scope, a new focus on strategy, a new focus of leadership and cooperation. And I think we have heard some elements today, which I will take with me and say, perhaps we can have a new approach in some ways. And right now we have a planning act in Denmark, which we have heard has some very strict regulations about coastal zone in a 3-kilometer range. But we also had in 2017 a lot of new possibilities for development areas in the coastal zones, for new second homes. And this year we have published an evaluation of these changes which were made in 2017. And right now we have already had 2 government initiatives on the founded in this evaluation, and we expect more to follow over the coming years. So from me, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiina, for your reflections here. We will come back to a discussion. So let's move on to Kristin Nordli from the Norwegian National Department of Municipal and Modernization Affairs. I think that's my translation here. I don't know whether that works for you.
Thank you for inviting me. Right now, the name of the ministry is the Ministry of Local Authorities and Modernization. But we have an election on Monday, so maybe we'll have a new name soon. And I'm from the planning department. And I have been working quite a long time with advising the local authorities on how to do spatial planning in the sea area and also along the coast. But we have, as Stein Arne Rånes just told, we have been focusing quite a lot in Norway about aquaculture and about the hardcore interests in the sea and how to develop new industries along the coast. So we have the Planning and Building Act, which goes 1 nautic mile beyond the baseline. But we also have very strong sectoral laws, like one of I think it was from Northern Ireland, she told about that the sectoral laws have different, some go out to 12 nautic miles. So right now we have a bigger discussion in Norway about sectoral laws or integrated coastal planning outside the areas outside of the Planning and Building Act. Like you also will know that we have windmills that will go offshore, aquaculture offshore, etc. So there's quite a lot of interest in those areas. And as also Denmark said, there is a big need, and Iceland also, for capacity building, and I think it's very important that the universities and high schools and also lower schools make people able to take part in the planning processes, but the Planning and Building Act has clearly quite strict regulations on public participation, but often, and especially in the sea areas, people are not able to give good. It's difficult to climb higher up in the ladder of public participation. And as Stein Arne Rånes said just now, we have with indigenous people how to take care of their interests, because we have a tradition that the strong sectoral departments are very active along the shore, and they are not used to the issue of integrated planning, like and taking into precaution local authorities and the people who live along the coast. So up in the Norway, as you showed, we have also a problem with when the local authorities try to get planners. It's hard to find the right people and to make the local authorities capable of doing the planning work. So that are things we are working on, and I think it's very interesting also to have impulses from other countries in Europe to learn what you are working on. And so I think today has been very interesting, but there is still a lot of work to do, because there was a question about how how integrated is the planning, or is it just planning for aquaculture, taking care of one or two interests? And also along the Norwegian coast, the situation is quite different from up in the north, where Steinar and Rånes is, and along the western coast, where we have a lot of big fjords and which are narrow, and also the Oslofjord area, where we don't have any aquaculture, but the big discussion there is biodiversity in sea areas and also water quality. So we have a special plan now for the Oslofjord area, which is an action plan actually. So there's a lot of interesting things going on in Norway, and I think it's important that that we work together on developing the systems and learn from each other. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Kristin. And now we will move on to Tiina Tihlman from Finland. Tiina, you are a counselor at the Finnish Ministry of the Environment, and you have worked with coastal development and planning issues also for some time, I believe. Please, the word is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I started working with coastal areas already when I studied, so quite a long time ago. And I remember that my professor said about my subject, which I chose for my final work, that it was coastal infrastructures on different, or the regional structures on different time scales along the coast compared with the mainland. So I started with that one, and my professor said that is a good career for your life. He was right. So I'm still working with coastal issues. I work in the ministry actually with the International Spatial Planning Cooperation, and lately last years I have been working with maritime spatial planning, but when I came in the ministry 2003, I started with the coastal zone management and drafting integrated coastal zone strategy for Finland. So, and between studies and this work, I have worked in coastal development projects, and at the moment I'm also a member of Finnish. I should have checked that name in English, but it's a parliamentary commission for coastal and island issues, and which duty is to watch out the coast development issues on archipelagos. So I'm in many ways involved in coastal and maritime issues. But to the agenda of the day, I feel. Oh, and then I still have to tell one thing of myself, that I come from very little remote village. It's not on the coast, but there's long distances to everywhere. Nearest shop is about 20 kilometers from my village, and my school was 50 kilometers from my village. And so I know something about remote areas also from my own experience. And coastal areas and archipelagos reminds me very much of that area. I think that coastal areas, they are really attractive. So that is one very strong actor when we, or whoever lives there, want to develop the area. So you have to keep in mind that there's a lot of fascinating nature and fascinating cultural heritage. So these are very important values. And the coast is really really diverse area. So when I listened to all these excellent presentations, they were really excellent, and so you can think or deal with the area from so many angles. So I think really many kind of things. And I was looking at the questions you gave us, the how to evolve coastal governance and planning in the future. So my first answer is that I don't actually know, but I feel that governance is something which each country has its own governance, and it's really difficult to make changes to governance systems, whatever governance you are talking about. So it's more important that you cooperate, and there was a term, this cross-fertilization in one presentation. So it's really important that you cooperate across different governance levels, and you cooperate with different sectors and interest groups. And that I find that more important. And I would like to highlight here now the Maritime Special Plan, how we did it in Finland, because we did it in a very collaborative process, and because it deals only with the maritime area, so there are no inhabitants on that area. So mostly our partners or cooperation partners, interest groups, they were other authorities and from different levels, and also some researchers and institutes and so on. So but anyhow, how there was in one presentation that the key question is in collaboration is the trust. So what we did was that when we gathered all these interest groups together, we didn't start with the planning, but we started with discussing about the future. And we had a consultant who drafted 3 scenarios, and then these interest groups, they continued to work with these scenarios, and they had to discuss with each other. And then they continued with drafting a vision for the coast, and finally they drafted actually the plan. They had to do the plan together on the map, and our planners were still looking and participating with them, but not planning. So we didn't give any idea of the plan to the stakeholders, but they were doing it themselves. And I think this is a valuable experience, that you learn, know each other in the process, and then you start to trust them. And when you do this cooperation very in open-minded way, and you are honest, so you learn to cooperate, and it's really important. And when finally planners start their work, they just they finalized the plan actually in half a year after that. we did about 2 years this cooperation with stakeholders. And there was a question of why this cooperation is so difficult. I can give some in Finnish case. There's simple answers to that. In this case, it was a little bit more easy, because there were authorities, and we did it on daytime. But people, local residents, they are working on the daytime, and then you should cooperate in the evening. and they can't come on daytime. So the timing is one, and in Finnish case also the distances. We in drafting our MSP, Maritime Spatial Plan, we organized several regional meetings around Finland, but still these stakeholders, they had to travel about 200 or 300 kilometers to come to our meetings. So the distances are really one obstacle for cooperation. And these are just two things, timing and distances. They are really demanding. What else? Yes, there was also discussion about the accessibility of the coastal areas, and I have been thinking that since already a long time, that one crucial thing is that you have a road or bridge, and you can establish your company, or you can live on island or coast. But now when time is changing and we have all these new technologies with us, we can distance work, and we have some new, what are those? I just lost the word. Those are small flying things who can bring your parcel to somewhere where you are, and you can use the technology to carry out things, and you can do your work distance. But this means that you need these technologies and you need knowledge. And somebody there also in some presentation there was that it was Kristin who said that people living on these coastal areas, they think that development issues are your own on remote areas. So you have to develop your own things. And this is also how I think that when you live on remote areas, you have to be you have to have many talents. You have to be prepared to do many kind of things, and you have to know how you can earn your living on your own there. You can't expect that you will get all the services there, at least not in Finnish case, because we simply don't have money for all services on all areas. I think I answered a bit already how to better include local communities. It was a little bit difficult for me to follow all these presentations when you don't know what scale you are talking about. So there are so many scales. If you work on local level, so it's not so difficult to participate. Local people had to work together to draft these plans, and finally we got one maritime spatial plan for the whole Finland. But yes, this MSP is non-binding, and regional land use plans, they are binding. So they are guiding actually the development on the area. And what else? Yes, now what I'm now thinking to do or going to do is that when we finalized, or the regional councils, they finalized the Finnish MSP in the end of the last year. So now we want to renew our coastal strategy. So And one key issue in that will be that how we can implement MSP in coastal strategy, how to implement MSP. And yes, well, was this an answer to the question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah,